Hello everybody, welcome back to Duty's Daggers. We are going over a knife today, but first of all, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. You'll be happy that you did it. We have fun here on the channel, and also follow me at duties_daggers. So, I unboxed this knife yesterday, and I filmed it, uploaded it. It's up there right now. Excuse me. But I wanted to do a more in-detail overview of it. Now, when I unboxed it, I initially was having some lock stick problems. I resolved that. All it needed was a little bit of lube on the detent ball. For whatever reason, that fixed it. So I wanted to, like I said, just do a little more in-depth overview of the knife because it's brand new. This is the first run of the EMP-EDC Nymble W, and I figured people are thinking about buying this thing. So I wanted to give you guys just a really good look at it. First of all, here's the packaging. Really love this, how they did this. It's like a little pelican case thing. Really nice. It comes with some stickers, a cleaning cloth, a certificate of authenticity, EMP-EDC, Nymble W, M390, date of birth August 22nd, the first run. So it comes nicely in its little home right there. Really like the packaging. Really like the stickers. Really digging just the whole aesthetic of this whole package. Is really, really cool. So here's the knife. The EMP-EDC Nymble W. So let's open it up, take some measurements, do some size comparisons, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. It's a Wharncliffe blade, which is what the W stands for. It's a really good size, first of all. Choked back, I can easily get a full grip on it. The way this handle swells really locks you in. And choked up, man, this thing is unbelievably comfortable. Super duper comfortable. So let's throw it up against the Benchmade Griptilian and the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. There you go. Smaller than both. And then let's do some Civivis, the Civivi Conspirator and the Civivi Elementum. Bigger than the Elementum. And then finally, let's do the Ontario Rat Model 2 and the QSP Penguin. Both pretty popular budget knives. So, there you go. I love this knife. I really, really love it. It keeps growing on me. I loved it from the minute I unboxed it, but it really just keeps growing on me. Let's take some measurements. The blade length is 3 1/4 inch. We have overall, if you measure from this tip here to the tip of the blade, it is 7 5/8. And then closed, we have a length of 4 3/8 inch. So we have a lot of means of deployment here. But first, let's talk about the construction. This is all titanium with a really beautiful frag pattern milled into it on both sides. We have a really nice deep carry. Well, yeah, it's pretty deep carry. You do have kind of this point sticking out of your pocket. I carried this all day today, and it carries really well. It goes in and out of the pocket very easily. This frag pattern, does not hang up on your pocket, seemingly. Sometimes that's a problem if there's texture on the titanium, where the clip meets the scale. Sometimes if that's rough, it'll kind of tear up your pocket, but not this one. It felt really smooth. The point that it's resting on is actually on top of one of these little cells here, so I think that's probably part of the reason why. We have a serial number back here on the backspacer. I'm not sure if that's a number, the number of the knife, or just a serial number, or I don't know if it's the number of the knife in the run. I'm not sure. Really nice backspacer though. Again, titanium. We have a spot for a lanyard right back there. I probably won't put a lanyard on this, but I do like that. It would look weird if the clip was scooted all the way up here. So I'm glad that it is how it is. I think that's a good spot for it. It's really kind of out of the way. The clip is not resting on the lock bar, which is really nice. You know, a lot of times, let's see, do I have an example? Let's see. Here's an example. The Chavez scapegoat here, you can see that half of the clip is resting on this lock bar. That means that when you go to flip it, if you're putting too much pressure on this clip, it's actually going to, in turn, put pressure onto the lock bar, making it harder for you to open the knife. It being off of the lock bar means that you can put your fingers on here for support as you go to flip it, and it's not going to affect you opening the knife. I think that's a really nice touch. We do have the lock bar leaf cut on the outside, but it does not hang up on my pocket at all, so that's good to go. I really like the shine on the hardware. You can see this pivot here. It's a nice kind of flat-headed Torx with a good polish on it. The pivot on this side has their logo on it. I think it looks awesome. Excuse me. And yeah, we have T8 hardware all the way around, which is awesome. Even the lock bar insert, steel lock bar insert, is a T8 as well, and the pocket clip. Very, 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 very good. So let's talk about the means of deployment. We have a deployment hole, we have a regular flipper, and we have a front flipper. Now, let's talk about the reverse flicker first. It is fantastic. It really, really is very easy to reverse flick. When I first was messing around with this knife, I thought it had kind of a weak detent, and it does. It's weaker than some knives in my collection or that I've handled, but I have come to realize that it actually is tuned perfectly for all these means of deployment. If it was much stiffer, it would be impossible to front flip, and it would be annoying to a regular flip. So, you know, they really tuned it perfectly, is what I'm trying to say here. The reverse flick, fantastic. I really like the deployment hole, how it kind of steps down from the flat here to this little area that's milled out, and then finally to the actual hole. That's kind of an EMP-EDC signature hole there. It's on all of the Nymbles that I'm aware of. See some dust in there. I really like it. All the edges are knocked down in here, so you're not, you know, it's not taking part of your fingernail with it or your skin or anything like that. And that goes for this whole knife. There's no sharp edges on this thing, and there really is opportunity for sharp edges. You know, all these milling lines, if they weren't properly knocked down, this thing would have sharp edges and it would be uncomfortable. But there really is none. Honestly, there is none, except for, obviously, the one that's important, this edge right here. So reverse flicking, fantastic. The regular flipper is really cool because it's not poking out. I mean, it's a little bit angled this way from the scale, but, you know, obviously compared to most other flipper tabs, it's very streamlined and kind of just tucked away in there, which I love. It's easy to operate. You can push button it, but sometimes what happens is the front flipper will come around and hit your finger. So in my experience, the light switch works a bit better, and man, it flips very nicely. Now the front flipper, it kind of took me a second to get used to it. I'm getting there. When I first unboxed this, I could barely even do it, and it just took some getting used to. It's a little bit of a different thing than a lot of other front flippers, and I'm not sure exactly why. It has to do with the shape of the front flipper tab here and just the whole design, I think. But once I figured it out, it really is easy to do. You can even do that. I'm not sure if I can. Yeah, I can do the reach around. It's a little difficult, but I can do it. So that's awesome. I wasn't sure about the front flipper at first, and I'm really glad that it's turning out to be a good one. So, I mean, all the means of deployment work really well. My favorite probably is the reverse flick. It's just so darn easy to do and satisfying. I can't really... Oh, never mind. I just did it. I was going to say I can't really thumb flick it, but I'm doing it now. It's kind of weird, but you can do it. So, means of deployment, awesome. This thing is fidgety, man. There's just so many ways to open it. The closing action is great. A couple shakes and it goes down. It's going to break in very nicely, though. I could already tell. As I use it, it's just going to continue to get smoother and smoother. There's a pretty good click at the close. So I like to hear that. Deployment methods, awesome, man. Really awesome. Ergonomics. I mentioned it a little bit before. So choke back, very comfortable, very, very comfortable. And I was thinking, if you had bigger hands than I did, if you had to hang a pinky off, it's really not the end of the world because you're kind of back here. So you still have a pinky on the knife. It's just not in this primary groove here. So if you had bigger hands than I do, you'd be holding it somewhat like this, which is still comfortable. You're still grabbing on with your pinky. And then choked up, obviously, if you have bigger hands than I do, you're going to be very comfortable up here as well. Really, really comfortable, man. Really comfortable. That I do not feel this clip at all. It's like it's not there. The jimping extends almost all the way the primary spine, which is awesome. Awesome. Choked back, your thumb hits all the jimping. Choked up, your thumb hits all the jimping. You could put your thumb all the way up here, I guess, if you really wanted to. Not sure why you would, but man, this thing is just really gives me a locked-in feeling, which I really like. Let's talk about the blade. It is an M390 blade, and it's stone-washed. I really like the stonewashing. It's a good one. Check it out here. Yeah, it's a good-looking blade, man. It really is. Not like unbelievably thin, but it is pretty decently thin. I like the fact that the tip is thin, but not to the point where it's going to be fragile. Because a lot of the cutting I'm going to be doing with this knife is, utility type stuff, where my pointer finger's probably up here, putting pressure into the point. So that's awesome. Not too thin to where I need to worry about the tip breaking off for whatever reason. The sharpening choil is good. It's a sharpening choil / finger choil, but you have a lot of room here. You got a lot of life in this blade for sharpening. I really like that there's no billboarding on the blade at all. It doesn't even say the blade steel anywhere. It just gives it a really nice, just really clean look. The only kind of billboarding you have is just that on the logo or on the pivot. And I think it looks awesome. It's kind of classy. A lot of times when knives have a lot of billboarding, it just kind of cheapens up the knife. It kind of just makes me think. I don't know what it makes me think. I just don't like it when there's too much. A little bit's okay. But this is just a really nice, clean look, man. Very, very nice. Kind of an aggressive Wharncliffe. It's pretty tall. Comes down to a decent point, so you're still going to be able to do any type of piercing tasks since there's still a good tip on here. There is very slight belly on the edge here. Very slight. It's not completely straight, but it is pretty close. This blade shape is just going to be really useful for the type of cutting that I do, which is a lot of, cutting out cardboard patterns, cutting out leather pieces, opening up packages, all types of stuff. And, even slicing tasks are going to be really nice with this thing. There's nothing in the cutting path. The hole is, but material is just going to go right past that. So, there's milling on the inside, so this thing is pretty light. It's 4.4 ounces, which, I looked up the weight before I got it, but you never are really sure until you get it in your hands. And I was surprised to see how light it was. I honestly was. Looking at pictures, I couldn't really see how thick it was, so my mind was telling me, hey, this thing's going to be a little thicker and it's going to be heavier. But it's not. It's decently thin. And there's a lot of milling on the inside. It's actually really light, reasonably light, 4.4 ounces. So man, that the weight combined with the size of this thing, I think it's going to be a really, really good EDC size. Just perfect EDC size. I love this knife. I really, really love it. I'm really happy that I got that lock stick resolved. It was weird. I flipped it for a couple times when I first opened it, and then all of a sudden I went to push aside the lock bar, and I had to use my other hand to get it over, get the lock bar over. So I think there was just like a little metal shaving or something on that lock face probably, and that little bit of lube just moved it out of the way or something. I really don't know, but it's been a full day and a half, and it's not come back at all. So I think we're good to go. Speaking of the lock bar, they did cut away the scale a bit, so you have good access to the lock bar. I don't feel like I'm getting crammed in there trying to push it aside. There's definitely enough room to do it. Another little detail that I think is kind of cool is they have like a little cutout right here where the scale comes down. You know, they kind of had to do it. Well, I wonder. I guess they had to do it that way, or else part of this would be moving with the lock bar. But they could have made the tang further down and then just had it flat like this. I guess you can't really see. But anyways, I'm not really sure the reason for that, but I think it looks cool. There is an over travel stop there built into the lock bar, or the lock bar insert. So you got that. You can kind of see right there, a little tab. So you have that. There's a lot of attention to detail on this thing. You can tell that it's very, very well thought out. As far as tuning the detent so that all the deployment methods work well, the placement of the pocket clip, the just the ergonomic lines, this perfect size jimping, perfect length of jimping. I really like this thing. I really like it. So that's a little more in-depth overview of the knife. I will do a more long-term review. Excuse me. I'll do a more long-term review of the knife in a couple weeks, maybe a week or 2 weeks, after I have more of a chance to carry it and cut with it. But I just wanted to film this video so that you guys got a really good look at it in case you were thinking of buying one. I'm not sure if the last drop, if there's still any available there. You'll have to go to EMP-EDC.com to check. But there is going to be a second run of these. So, you know, if you see this, you want one, and there's none available, rest assured that they will be having more eventually. So there's probably a way to sign up for notifications on their website. Yeah, there will be an opportunity to get one for sure. And just another small detail, I really like that they didn't extend this frag pattern to the very edges of the scale. You can see it kind of fades away, you know, whatever that is, you know, little over an 1/8 inch away from the edge. I think that's awesome, and I think the reason for that is ergonomics. You know, it's just nice and smooth at the edges here, where you're going to be feeling most of that curvature. You know, I think if the pattern extended to the end, there'd be a bunch of sharp edges at the you know, the edges of each of these little squares. So I think that was a really good idea. It looks good. It's just really comfortable. Yeah, that's all I can think of. If you guys have any more questions on the knife, ask me in the comments. I will absolutely reply. You know, if you're thinking about buying the knife and you want to know something or whatever it is, just ask. I'll get back to you. That's about it. Thanks for watching, folks. I will see you in the next video. Adios.